Hey, welcome to Conversations. You know, Mark Hughes left us two incredible legacies. He left us our wonderful company, our business opportunity, and our products that have really enhanced the lives of so many. And he also left us a heart, and that heart is the Herbalife Family Foundation. And today I'm very proud to be able to speak to Jonathan Zeichner. Jonathan is the executive director of a place called Home, which is our first Casa Herbalife here at the home of Herbalife in Los Angeles, California. Jonathan, welcome.
Michael, great to see you.
Good to see you. Now, Jonathan, you run this sensational after-school program, this Home for Kids, that is one of the Casa Herbalife programs. We're extraordinarily proud to be involved with you on this. But before we jump into what exactly is done at a place called Home, tell us a little bit about Jonathan Zeichner.
I grew up in the East Coast in New Haven, which was a tough town, and I was a latchkey kid from a pretty young age and ended up leaving home when I was about 16 years old.
Out. On your own.
On my own, supporting myself.
Were mom and dad both in the home? Or
parents were divorced. Not a whole lot of contact with my father at that point. My mother moved away from New Haven to Washington, D.C. She was a kind of fascinating person in her own right and very involved in the civil rights movement. And she moved to D.C. and I said, I'm not going to go. So she moved with my younger brother and I stayed in New Haven and was able to make a home for myself. I ended up living with another family for about a year, finished high school.
At 16 years old?
At 16 years old. Finished high school at 17, and then came out to California where, the streets were paved with gold, so we heard, and ended up in the San Francisco Bay Area. But during that time, I'll be honest, I didn't have adult role models in my life and kind of tried a number of different paths and probably could have gotten into a lot more trouble than I did. And it was during that time that the civil unrest happened here in Los Angeles after the Rodney King incident. And I was looking at that, and I remember very clearly sitting up all night long and watching on the television as we saw buildings being burned and people hurting and maiming and killing each other and looting going on. And there was this sense of indignation and some of it quite righteous in my opinion, but the violence never righteous. And what jumped out for me was the faces of the kids. Children who were being swept into this wave of violence that they had no part in the creation of, this sort of class and race polarization that exists in many urban centers in Los Angeles in particular. And I remember thinking, I've got to do something about this. So I started a program called the School Project in direct response to those riots. In 1993, we went into 2 schools in South Los Angeles, toughest neighborhoods you could imagine. And it just took off, Michael. And in addition to going in and working with kids after school, in their schools, in their neighborhoods, we also started a component that took them out of the city for 3 days on a camping retreat where they got to write plays about issues in their own lives, in their own communities, that they wanted the rest of the world to know about. And I did that for 17 years. And there I was, about 9 months ago, I guess, when I got a call from someone who was representing a place called Home.
Right.
And they said, we're going through planning for a leadership transition right now, a very graceful one because the former exec was still there and doing a great job. But we're looking to take the organization to another level. We're looking for what's the next chapter. And your names come up, would you be interested? And I said, well, no, not really. I'm very happy where I am. This is my world here, but I'm always interested in talking about partnership, in ways that we could work together. Would you be willing to talk about that? So then began a conversation about what were the overlaps and the commonalities between the methodology that I had created with others at Inside Out and what was happening at a place called Home. And of course I knew that a place called Home was and is a very important agency. It sits at ground zero.
In the heart of it all.
Honestly. And
South Central and Martin Luther King Boulevard, right?
That's correct. So it's right down there in the center, and in fact, right in the neighborhood that inspired me to start my organization 17, 18 years ago. So I started coming to a place called home, and I got to be honest with you, after a couple of visits and sitting with staff and interacting with the kids, I fell in love with it. And I started feeling that, you know, if you're fortunate, you get it a few times in your life where you know that you can be useful and that you're where you're supposed to be.
What do you see that we can be doing, not only at a place called home, but more as a global company, to be more socially minded?
You asked what could you be doing. I want to talk a little bit about what you have been doing, because the partnership between a place called home and Herbalife is, in my opinion, you know, the epitome of what a for-profit and a nonprofit partnership should look like. Largely because there's an exchange of value there, and there's a shared value there, and it's not all about money. I mean, I happen to know, because I checked before I came in for this meeting, that Herbalife distributors and employees show up at a place called home. I mean, I've been seeing them since I've been there, but I asked Gilbert, I said, well, how often do they show up, and what are they doing? And he said, well, you know, last year we had about 210 Herbalife volunteers show up.
Yay, Herbalife.
Who contributed more than 1,600 hours of volunteer time. Took our kids on a trip to the beach, helped set up a haunted house at Halloween, you know, have helped us with our Thanksgiving giveaway. We served 1,000 dinners to folks who didn't have food on their tables this past Thanksgiving. And there was a team of Herbalife volunteers there working. So
it's heartwarming
what
to hear.
Can you do in addition to that? Well, you're doing a lot. You know, Herbalife was one of the primary funders of our nutrition program to begin with, and then helped us remodel and create a real industrial kitchen. And we're serving 6,000 to 8,000 meals a month at a place called home. And we're serving meals to kids who don't have enough food at home. And come the end of the month, you know, we've seen kids put food in their pockets. And we say, why are you doing that? You can eat as much as you want here. They say, well, my younger brother is at home and he doesn't have enough food, and it's the end of the month and we don't have any more money. So what can you do? I'd say, what can we do together? When you know somebody who's feeling down, they're feeling victimized, they're feeling a little sorry for themselves, what do you advise them to do?
Well, I try to be compassionate with them and get back on their feet and, you know, help someone else.
That's it.
You know, because that takes the focus off you.
And every time I talk to a friend who's feeling upset or miserable or like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, I say, find somebody else who needs your help. And I think that, not to suggest that Herbalife isn't doing great and isn't in the pink of health, but the fact is, doing something for other people is what gives meaning to your life.
Our most successful distributors, the ones who've really built their businesses, I don't hear the commercial sensibility as being their lead. I hear, I want to help someone else. I lost a bunch of weight, or I feel better, or I've improved my economic station in life. And Michael, I used to sleep in a car, and then I slept in a garage. And now I have my own condo, or maybe my own house, or something. I picked my station up, but I did it by helping others.
The fact is that impoverished people eat very poorly. And the fact is that most corporate entities don't want to go into the inner city. So what you have is street corners with liquor stores and convenience stores and fast food chain outlets. And the truth is that we see a lot of obesity, we see a lot of diabetes, we see kids who have health problems, respiratory problems. Kids.
Type 2 diabetes used to be a disease for 50 to 60 to 70-year-olds.
One of my pet projects, we're planning to start a garden to table program at a place called Home, where the kids learn to grow the food, they learn about the nutritional value of the food, they learn how to cook the food, and they share. And the other thing, back to this discussion about doing for others, we're about to introduce a new program at a place called Home where all of our kids, starting even with the 8-year-olds, are going to be invited and encouraged and supported to find some project in the community. It could be at a place called Home, but it may be at another agency or a home for the elderly. It may be a cleanup in their community. And so the thought that when a kid crosses that threshold and comes into a place called Home, the opportunity for them not only to improve their own lives, but to become an agent of change back in their school, their home, their community. That is really what our mission is. And so what can you do? What can you continue doing? Just keep giving, and bring in that heart and understanding that nourishment is for the body, as Herbalife knows, but nourishment is also for the human spirit, the human soul. And that's my business.
But one of the things we're proud of at this company is that nourishment you're talking about. It is physical. It's emotional here. It's material too. And, the distributor base in this company, the Herbalife distributor, has over the past decade, even started with Mark Hughes 30 years ago, the give back.
You can tell when the ethos of a company and when the health of a company and when the balance of a company is in the groove. You can tell. And you can tell it by the health and the happiness and the balance that you see in the employees. So I love having Herbalife volunteers come to a place called Home. Honestly, there are a few in particular whose faces I see over and over and over again. And they come in and they just fill the room with their energy. Why? Because they, and I'm going to say this for myself despite your praise, they're getting more out of it than they're giving.
Yeah,
and that's the reality. The fact that these kids come in and get a decent meal in that kitchen that you guys built for us, it changes how they walk in the world. It changes their development as a human being, and it changes their understanding of their role. It's not a charity. It's a place for them to discover what their abundance is, what their skills are, what their strengths are, so that they can go back out into the world and make a difference.
Well, maybe we can help you with this one, because one of the ideas that Robin and Barb and the board, and especially Robin and Barb driving this, is that we get kids from one program, one Herbalife Casa, to visit another one, and then another one, and then around the world where we have these 50. We're going to have 100 in the next 5 years. We'll have 50 more. That's one of our goals here. It's ambitious. We're going to have to raise a lot more money to do it, but our distributors and employees have been incredibly generous. And maybe, a place called Home is a place we start this.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to help you in your mission, and this is an exchange, and I believe in what it is that you're doing in the Casa Herbalife's. Robin Browning, you're referring to, who's the exec of your foundation, is just so fantastic. I enjoy working with her. I always learn a lot from her.
A force of energy.
She is, and she's full of joy. She's bubbling over all the time, but she also makes stuff happen. And this idea of our kids hooking up and perhaps visiting other Casa Herbalifes is very much aligned with something that I'd like to get going there, which is I'd like our kids to see the world. There is more to the world than that, 5-10 square blocks in which they live, in which they get this message constantly that, it's hard, they're never going to get out, and hardly anybody ever does. And well, there's an awful lot more out there in the world. And so let's make a pledge right now that over the next year, we'll figure out a way. Maybe some of our kids go to Africa or go to, Rio or go somewhere, and that there's an exchange, and maybe we host some of the kids from there. And then the world expands, and they understand that there's an opportunity for them to make a difference, a global difference.
We have 2 million distributors out there. And that's an army. I had Gorbachev who spoke at this thing, and he asked me how many distributors we have, and I told him, he said, you could start a war with that many people. And I said, well, that's one way of thinking about it. So how about a war on poverty, and how about a war on unhappiness, and we'll bring opportunity to people, and we'll bring nutrition to people, And with good people like you out there, we'll partner to make this world a better place. So, Jonathan, I want to thank you. Your heart leads your words, which is unique and rare in this world. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate
Michael,
it.
thank you.
And good luck
It's a
to you.
pleasure.